Welcome back to Reignite Your Soul podcast. This is a sacred space where conscious creators gather to align with their intuition, deepen their connection, and confidently embody their own wisdom. And I'm your host, Laura Plahuta, visionary force behind Reignite Your Soul. And I'm super thrilled to embark on this transformative journey with all of you listening. And in this amazing episode that we are recording here today, I have the beautiful Natasha DreamSeer. And she is a dream educator, interpreter, mystic, and guide. And she is a gateway to profound journey and self-discovery and personal growth through helping people to tap into their own wisdom through the power of their dreams. And today she's going to guide us through both the scientific and the mystical piece. If you know me, you know that I love kind of bringing both of those aspects together because I think it's so cool to be able to merge kind of like all of the ancient stuff that's been taught for thousands and thousands of years, as well as bringing in the modern piece of the science that's really like starting to come in a lot more the last decade or so, to be able to merge these two windows where there's so much potential here for us as human beings here. So our intention for this specific episode is by the end that you will have a deep understanding of the value of dream work. We really aim to inspire a curiosity within you, where you can begin to understand the profound power and insights available from your dreams, encouraging you to step more fully into the life that you dream of and unlocking your untapped potential. So thank you so much for being here, Natasha.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
I'm so excited. Yeah.
I know, me too. So if you're open to it, would you mind sharing a little bit more about your background and what inspired you to get into the dream work?
Yes. So, we all dream. I just happen to remember mine a lot, actually pretty much every single day. And so from a young age, a lot of kids really dream heavily. So it's not uncommon by any means. But I grew up in a household where both of my parents also avid dreamers. It was normal conversation. It was normal conversation to talk about our dreams and what we saw and what messages we might be gleaning from those and who visited. And it's actually quite common in the culture too. Caribbean culture, but also Eastern culture is also very similar in that sense. So it just was common, just felt like normal growing up. And so dreams were never this regarded as something that were, or disregarded, I should say. They were actually really seen as messages and guidance and a place of wonder and a place of visitation. And so it always had that connotation for me.
Amazing. Was there any ever point that you kind of like, was there any pivotal point that you kind of went through where you're like, I want to get into dream education. I want to be able to share these gifts with other people?
Well, this is actually really more of a later, this is more, I would say, in the recent realm for me to actually, I would say, come out, with it, because I grew up with it being very, very normalized. So I never saw it as a thing. I never saw it as a gift or an ability or a skill by any means.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still have very clear memories of when during childhood, seeing precognitive dreams. I still have one that's very vivid from, when I was 16. The term out of body experience was first introduced to me by my father. I was around 12 years of age, 11 to 13, somewhere in there, where he was like, I think I had an out of body experience. And I was like, what's that? So I had a lot of that growing up. And then in 2003 is really where I dove into dream interpretation. And that was really more for my own processing and my own journey, trying to understand myself. I went through periods of heavy, vivid dreaming that really hasn't stopped, but they were quite remarkable. And that's a time when I was going through my own period of expansion and growth. And so the messages were they were very profound and things were very vivid. And so I just kind of naturally gravitated towards, what does this mean? Because they just felt so otherworldly. I never thought that they were just jumbled things. I was like, no, there's something here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on that process of dream discovery in 2003 very distinctly, and then became by de facto the dream interpreter for everybody around me, my friends and coworkers, actually. And it was they got used to me coming into work going, oh my God, I had this dream last night. And then people started coming to me going, I had this dream last night. And then, it just was something that I thought was part of my everyday life. And I thought it was normal for everyone. But really going and pushing this out into the world and feeling safe really to do so is something that's been more recent.
That's beautiful. I think that's like, I love how you mentioned that, because I feel like our gifts usually are those things that we are just so naturally ingrained into us. And it's not until people start coming to you where you're like, they're asking all these questions and stuff that you're really like, oh, I actually like have a lot of value to be able to share in this area, to be able to inspire and help other people. So I love that you started doing that. And when you mentioned about like kind of like, I know you have an extensive background. You've worked with some amazing people behind the scenes to really learn and educate yourself on all this stuff. Would you be open to sharing a little bit more about your experience kind of in that?
So I think for me, it's been, I utilized a lot of dream dictionaries and, things like that in my early sort of portion of discovering dreams for myself, really. And because there wasn't a lot of information, there's nothing to where there is now, right? If you go onto Google, there's tons. There was barely any in 2003. And so it was just really books and so on and so forth. And then spiritual growth, but it was also going through a period of understanding, Jungian psychology, depth psychology, understanding symbolism. I worked in the art field for a while as an art director and auctioneer. So I understood symbolism in dreams, working with, modern pieces, but also like pieces from like Salvador Dali, and some of these wonderful artists that were surrealist artists who actually use their dream state, their hypnagogic dream states, to bring their dreams to life through art. And so I dove into the world of symbolism, and that was really keen. Also, through my own growth, understanding spiritual psychology, which I went through, but also heavy meditation, right? And so in meditation, you do see a lot of symbolism, right? Guided imagery and things like that. And so all of those things kind of somehow, kind of meshed into one another, where I naturally gravitated towards those. So I did take quite a few programs. I mean, I'm trained as a Reiki master. I'm initiated into Kriya Yoga. I've been practicing transcendental meditation for 20 years, and Yoga Nidra. So I think at this point where I'm at as well is I now have mentors in the dream space as well. I have a gentleman by the name of Ryan D. Hurd, who is a OG in the lucid dreaming space. And I'm part of a group. I call them my dream nerds because I really enjoy, we get to kind of nerd out on our own stuff, which is really cool. But Tiz's Dream Studies portal. And then I'm undergoing a year with a clinical psychologist who, Dr. Leslie Ellis, who is, renowned in, in dealing with dream work, embodied dream work. And so that's something that I'm heading into. So I've done a few courses and programs, and one that also was involved in, sleep paralysis and what we would perceive as negative dreams. And so there's been a lot of study, but there's a lot more. Like, that's what I'm excited about. Is just such a big, broad topic. I'm going to be going to the International Dream Association conference in the Netherlands in June. And I'm just like, I'm already starstruck by, the authors and the people, the neuroscientists and things like that. They're going to be there that are presenting some really cool information. It's such a big space. It's so much bigger than what people think. There's different types of dreams, different styles of dreams. I also love Dr. Matthew Walker. He is, a neuroscientist who, focuses on dream work and study of dreams, but from a scientific perspective at UC Berkeley. So it's really kind of, there's just so much. Yeah. I don't even know where to begin, but there's a lot of, there's a lot of resources that are out there, but it's still small. right? People are
Yeah.
still surprised when I tell them what I'm into. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know anybody." And
Hmm.
it's incredible to me because, you know, understanding our dreams was something that was a common practice in previous civilizations. They used to gather and have communal dream sharing sessions. That was a normal practice in
Wow.
many indigenous cultures around the world. Ancient civilizations, we know that they leaned into their dreams for guidance, for talking to God, right? Ancient
Mm-hmm.
Egypt, the Greeks, the Romans, this was normal, right? And so many of the, you know, mythology, right, which is, you know, a framework for how we interpret things and live in life and wisdom, you know, there's so much about um dream work, you know, that's embedded in all of that. And so in every single culture, it has been something that's not just paid attention to, but it is revered, right? Celtic
Mm-hmm.
traditions, Wiccan tradition, whatever it might be, dream work is something that was um, put on a pedestal. And to me, it's been that patriarchal, you know, dumbing down of what wisdom that we actually have within us.
Mm-hmm.
Dreams are powerful.
Yeah. Honestly, it's so fascinating because before meeting you, you are the only person that dives so much into dreams that I know of, right? And
Mhm.
it really is like it's such a vast broad type thing. And I absolutely love that you're going to that conference as well. That's going to be
Yeah.
so exciting.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, like, from your perspective, like, how do you feel like if it was so kind of like revered in all of these ancient cultures, where do you feel like the kind of the cutoff was from modern day society, where we've kind of lost some of this ancient wisdom? And I know it is starting to come back through again now, and I'm very grateful to have you on here to be able to start sharing it a little bit more. But where do you feel that that kind of got cut off?
You know, great question. I think it's where all of our faculties, you know, kind of got cut off. I think it was, you know, I don't have a clear answer because
Mm-hmm.
even in biblical times, right? You know, the Bible, it talks a lot about, for example, Joseph and the story of Joseph, and he was somebody that interpreted dreams, right? So dreams were very important during that time in
Mm-hmm.
Hindu culture, right? We know that dreaming and that mystical component at Tibetan Buddhism, perfect example. They have dream yoga, which has now been in practice since the 11th and 12th century.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Western culture, I really don't know when it happened. I mean, you know, mysticism in general, I think it was really when you had in that 1800 period when people started to come out of and teaching different things, something called theosophy by a woman named Madame Blavatsky, right? So it was kind of like there were these, you know, thought leaders that were coming out during
Mm-hmm.
the turn of the century. And suddenly there was this movement during the Industrial Revolution to really shunt that growth. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was this sort of fighting. So my reflection would seem that it would be in and around that period, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I'm not a historian. It's
Yeah.
just that it makes sense to me because a lot of, you know, when we see Edgar Cayce in terms of astrology, when we see all of these different thought leaders that were coming out at that time, there was a revolution that was coming out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Artists who were very, you know, out there. I mentioned Salvador Dali, but there's also Juan Moreau. So many of them, they had this, you know, very um, strong position. But then suddenly, and that was really early century, early 1900s, right? 1920s, 1930s. And suddenly it shifted. We had industrial revolution and everything became about business and
Mm-hmm.
everything became about structure and order. And then we had the wars and things like that. And it's people falling into place. So I feel like somewhere in there, something happened and something
Yeah.
shifted.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I feel like with everything in growth, it's like you swing far one way, you swing far another way, and then you come into balance of things, right? And it really is. It's cool. I love hearing those because I know my family wasn't spiritual or wasn't connected to any of this stuff. It's really just been the last probably like 7-8 years where I've went on this journey, and then my family has also came on this journey as well. So now we're all kind of into it to some extent. Me and my mom are definitely kind of the most into all of it, but it's really cool being able to see how it's coming back because I just feel like there's so much value to understanding the unconscious mind and tapping into our higher potential, our higher self, our spirituality, whatever that God is that we individually believe in. And
well, one of my favorite books at that time was, The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. It is a classic. It's something that's going to sell forever, and no matter what, but he was one of the first people that really kind of put this subconscious mind thing on the map. And that book, I believe, was written in the 1920s, right? You had where Napoleon Hill was writing Think and Grow Rich. So there was this movement that happened, but at the same time, there were these other controlling factions of government and structure and corporations and Wall Street and all those things that kind of came in and said that this is the way that things should be. So I think that, somewhere along that way, but this is ancient knowledge. This isn't new, and I love the fact that we are actually going through a renaissance, and rightly so, because this renaissance that's happening, it's people have realized that the old isn't working. And the old is just old. And those structures are crumbling. We see that in everything. And now there's a definite movement towards it. Even Dr. Joe Dispenza has hailed, lucid dreaming as something. Richard Rudd, the author of Gene Keys, has a course on dreams. It's big and it's growing. And rightly so, especially with the things that we have that are coming, which is AI, machine learning, right? We have all of that happening, and so we've got these things out there that can think and do faster than humans, but what they don't have is consciousness. And how can we access consciousness and higher levels of it than through dreams? We're unlimited. We're boundless in that realm. So this is why this is the right time. And to answer a previous question, I feel like I'm summoned. This is the time. It's like I've been called up.
Yeah.
Right. So here we are.
I believe you have 100%. Yes. And it's interesting too, like I know with my background being in health, like being a paramedic and seeing kind of like the health system that we have is not working in a lot of ways. How do you see that dream work and all of this amazing stuff that you're diving into can be a solution for people?
Well, there's a ton of studies right now, and especially they're doing a lot of things with, lucid dreaming and vivid dreaming generally, but, so right now there's a thing happening with a lot of utilizing plant medicines and so forth for treating PTSD and other types of clinical conditions. But not everybody may be comfortable with that. And not everybody's looking for a one-off. It's like, what can we have as a daily practice or a weekly practice? What is something that's available to us all the time? And dreams are. And dreams, it's, Freud said the royal road to the unconscious, right? And Dr. Gabor Mate had recently talked about that. It is a royal road. And so do you in these times with this? Well, people that are having nightmares, right? If you're having a so-called negative dream, in the dream world or through the dream space, there's no such thing as a negative dream because your dreams are always pointing you to a better place. So when you're having a perceived negative dream, it is because it's alerting something. It's telling you something. It's saying, hey, something's going on. Maybe you should examine this, right? So what if somebody's going through periods of anxiety, right? And then they're getting these sort of darker, grim kind of dreams. Well, it's really a reflection and saying, hey, this is going on. Now it's up to you, the individual, to say, what can I do about this? You know, what is this information? Now what am I going to do? But it's always pointing you towards a better path for yourself. So absolutely paying attention. Dream work is being included in a lot of clinical practices now, because especially for somebody who may have suicidal ideation, there have been studies that have shown that there is a massive uptick in their dreaming, right? So they're having unsettling dreaming, or dreaming where it's very dark. So in a clinical, environment, this could be a very key question for a practitioner to ask is, how are your dreams? And that could really give them a window insight to their patient and to what's going on. I have a saying for myself, which is, tell me your dreams and I'll tell you where you're at. Right. And so they're very profound. So to not actually include them, I think, is a huge disservice, actually. Because just as in life, right, we don't take action when things are going well. Why? Because things are going well. We pay attention when things are not going well, right? And so suddenly we remember these odd dreams that we're having, so it's a telltale sign. So including that as part of in somebody's therapeutic practice, I think, is key. And as well, it's something that I think in any kind of a practice, right? So if somebody's wanting to change, let's say, a behavior, right? They want to stop smoking, or let's say they might be somebody in a business environment where they feel like they're constantly, saying yes to everybody and being stomped on, right? You can actually use your dreams, and it's called Dreaming the Dream Forward, to actually reenact and of how you would want to change that narrative, right? Lucid dreaming has been studied for that, right? So, and lucid dreaming, so that you're reenacting a scene, but you get to choose the ending because you're in control in that lucid dream. So dream work is being utilized for that. There was a big study that in the UK for PTSD with the Army, and a guy who is a big time lucid dreaming expert, Charlie Morley, heavily involved with that. And so again, they're able to utilize their dreams and program, actually, and this is where hypnosis and things like that, and subconscious and repatterning, they kind of mesh together. And so these worlds collide, and utilizing dream work to be able to do that, huge therapeutic benefits that will work alongside one-off types of things, right? If somebody's going to a particular plant medicine type of a ceremony, or some other type of ceremony, this is something that can be more of a daily, more of a weekly practice to be able to just simply tune in.
Wow, incredible. Do you have any specific practices that you do on a daily basis that maybe the people listening could start implementing to kind of start tapping into a little bit of the magic that their dreams hold for them?
So yes and no, because it's so normal for me that I'm like, what do I do? But Dreams 101, Dream Intuition 101. So for somebody that is, someone has said to me, I never dream. Well, number one, embrace the fact that everybody dreams. You just don't remember them or recall them in that short window of time. The key is to actually be prepared. So have a pen and paper, close to where you can reach it without shifting your body too much. And the reason for that is the minute you start moving, you kind of, you snap out of the dream, right? So you actually shift your ability to remember the dream. If you kind of hold your position, you can extend it for a little bit longer. It's a technique that actually works, and I do it quite a bit. I can actually extend a dream several times, getting up, falling back, and holding my position. Even when I get up for an early morning bathroom break, I go back into the same position and then fall back into it. The other day, I fell back into it like 4 times, and I was like, enough. Enough. Like,
I love being in that state.
Things to do today. But so having that so that you can capture it quickly. So the key is to capture it quickly. Prior to that, though, if you're like, hey, I never see anything, then set the intention. Set the intention. So you're doing automatic suggestion, you're doing, intention setting. If you're journaling, in the evening, it's part of dream incubation. You want to kind of set the stage. So practicing proper sleep hygiene, making sure your environment is, conducive to a good night's sleep, but also what you're watching prior, that sort of thing. Maybe pay attention to that a little bit. Maybe, watch what you're watching, but for 5 minutes prior, do some journal exercises or write down an intention for the evening. What I like to do is I love listening to binaural beats. So even for 5 minutes of listening to binaural, pop that in, and I just visualize what I want to call in. If it's a problem that I want to solve, I'm asking or praying, saying it as part of my prayer. But I'm setting that right before I go to sleep. There's a beautiful space between wakefulness and right when you drift off, when you're about to head into that, you're in that delta theta phase. And it's like, that is a very potent time frame. And that's also equally potent upon waking, that space, so of time when somebody's about to wake, to set that intention. But I recently had somebody who we did automatic suggestion, and just by saying, when I sleep, I'll remember my dreams. When I wake up, I'm going to remember my dreams. It was just like, when I dream, I will remember them. Right. And it's just a quick line where you're prompting, and it will come. And if not, you can add some other things. There are, teas that people can have that have a mixture of like lavender and your chamomiles and that sort of thing. There are some specific sort of sleep blends. I prefer diffusing essential oils. So for me, lavender is my best friend, and it's a good night's sleep for me.
For anybody who's an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, are there any kind of specific tips that you can give for them if they are feeling like they're a little bit stuck, where they're in that kind of that ebb, like we were talking about? Obviously, when we're in the flow, we're in flow state. But for anybody who's kind of in that ebb state, kind of feeling a little bit stuck and stagnant, any ways that they can use dreams to be able to do this, including what you've already shared?
I think, yeah. So I think number one, it is, journaling, practicing that. I think that's a great thing, because you've got to set your intentions somehow. I'm a huge fan of meditation. There's no doubt about that. I think it's been a key aspect of not only enhancing the dreams, but also just your own personal growth and gaining that clarity, right? So ultimately, it'll help to clarify things that you're going through, because the entrepreneurial journey, like, chances are that person's getting into business because of something that they're really good at, or an idea that they already have. The blocks that they're having will be things that are different, whether it's, putting themselves out there more, or, selling their services or selling themselves, right? They'll have blocks of imposter syndrome and all of these other things that are in the equation. And so I think that is important for ultimately utilizing your dreams to do visualization. And so dreams don't necessarily have to be nocturnal to be considered a dream. They can also be, and that's a really important point to make. And so even when we're doing a meditation and we've sort of drifted off into, our delta and theta regions, if you get into those places, right? And that's where I think binaural beats comes into play. Is ultimately you can actually do something called entrainment, right? You're entraining yourself to actually get into certain states, or to entrain with those waves that we know have an impact. And you can actually allow some of those themes, it's like prompting. If your issue right now is confidence, how to hold better boundaries, Ask your subconscious mind for the information.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually say that our subconscious mind is really like ChatGPT. Give it a prompt.
Totally. 100%.
But it's true. Give it the prompt, right? Make it clear, right? Don't tell them how. They've got that part figured out. They're just there to give you the information. But if the prompt is clear, you're good, right? So it's almost like, however you need to anchor that, right? Whether it's through prayer for somebody, whether it's, a talisman, or some sort of thing where they can kind of anchor that thought somehow and connect. Some people, it's using crystals. All right, so they've got a crystal and they're holding on to it and they're setting that intention, and that crystal is amplifying that intention. So whatever you need to do to anchor that, and it's like, give me some tips, give me some clear advice on how to increase my confidence or how to set healthy boundaries. Help me define my healthy boundaries. Give it the prompt and trust that there's a bigger wisdom at play that's going to help unravel it, right? And so paying attention to that, or doing that when you're about to drift off, doing a meditation, prompting, and then allowing yourself to get into that state, and then allowing that clarity to kind of that divine download to come through, right? So to me, for the entrepreneur, it's actually really trusting your higher wisdom, right? Because, especially entrepreneurs, you have a tendency to get into the yang mode part of you, the doing, the forcing, the making it happen, the hustle kind of culture, where what I'm saying is you got something even better than ChatGPT. Prompt yourself, tell it what you want it to do for you, and then trust in the guidance. Incubate it, give it the right surroundings, whether that's binaural beats, whether that's diffusing. I like diffusing because the olfactory system is actually connected to the same part of our brain that actually helps and stores dreams and memories. And so I believe that there's a correlation actually to, and that's why for me, anything that stimulates my scent is actually key. And so things like that can do that. But journaling, writing, prompting, and obviously visualization. Visualization is key. Lucid dreaming right now, one of the biggest segments of lucid dreamers are gamers. And that's because they are involved in simulation all the time. They're always simulating, right? Jack Nicklaus, the famous championship golfer, has on record talked about the fact that in his dreams, he has been able to see, how he's holding the club or change something. He actually saw something in his dream that ended up getting him, I'm not a golfer, but ended up getting him a green jacket, at the Masters, right? So it's kind of one of those things where, hey, athletes, this is what they do. A huge part of their mindset training. Now, they may not call it dreams because dreams is a little bit woohoo sounding, but they're visualizing all the time. Now, if you can do that visualization right when you're about to fall into sleep, right when you're about to drift in, that's where you want to be. And so those are some of the things that you can do to set yourself up for success. On top of that, it's also utilizing your dreams for ideas. If you're like, I need to create something for X, show me an idea. Awesome. Prompt it. Tell it, give it the order. And, because how many times has that happened where we have been perplexed, or we couldn't think of something, or we didn't see an angle about something, or we didn't see a problem. And then all of a sudden we wake up from a good night's sleep and phew, clarity. Right. It happens over and over. I was in a circle in a ceremony where somebody was talking about a beautiful, and actually it's happened a couple of times for me where someone's sharing a dream and they saw this beautiful piece of art. Right. And one of my friends, who happens to be an artist, I was like, that sounds beautiful. That symbolism would look great on a canvas. And she was like, I never thought about it. We actually don't think about the fact that our dreams are actually giving us ideas all the time, right? And so you could actually pull out, and artists are really cool because they already come at life through a mystical lens, because they're already in, especially visual artists and literary artists, because they are required to already think outside of the box. So they already naturally have a sort of mystical sort of lens, or very wide lens, because they're always kind of thinking of things that are obscure, abstract, or different. And so they're already in the land of possibility. But they lean heavily on their dreams. So many ideas, right? So, Google was thought of by Larry Page through a dream. It's like it happens all the time. Many of our famous stories, right? Have come through a dream. Music, famous songs, right? Through Rolling Stones, or whether it's the Beatles, have come through dreams, right? People that I've worked with, the title of their event or whatever, it's like I woke up at 3 a.m. and I had this like flash. I'm sure you've had it. So it's like
tons of times. It's always right before I'm going to bed. I always joke. I'm like, have to have my phone usually, like I try to keep my phone away from my bed. So I'm not like sleeping by it. But then there'll be nights sometimes where it's just like, I have to go and grab it. And then I'm like going to bed, but I'm just like typing all the notes that are coming through and all of the ideas and all this. And I always joke. I'm like, why is it always right when I want to go to bed? I'm like, come on. But that's just when I'm in that state to do it. And I love how you mentioned that about entrepreneurs too, because it really is like sometimes when we get into that hustle thing, or we still have those beliefs or those patterns around overworking and all of these pieces, it really does block that creativity, because we get kind of tunnel visioned on one thing, whereas it really is, it's creating that state where we're in those specific brain waves in order to then access that higher wisdom and higher knowledge that we have. So I love how you kind of mentioned that in what you're doing, and also gave some tangible things that people can do to help them get into those states, because it really is so important to be able to kind of really bring our greatest selves forward when it comes to our businesses and creating the service and creating the impact that we want.
You'll actually get a lot more ideas, and you'll get a lot more problem solving with less stress.
Yeah.
Because it actually will free people up a lot more. As I said, I'm a marketing manager for a company. I'm a one-stop shop in there, doing content creation on all kinds of things, on angles, and also doing work for others outside in terms of content creation and ideation. And then I'm doing my own. And so I'm always having to be in flow. There's no day where it's like, oh, I'm having a slump. I can't think of it. No, there is no such thing.
Incredible.
It's like you have to, I kind of go, okay, well, what do I need to do? Maybe I need to go take a walk. Maybe I need to be by the trees. That's another great point, right? There's nothing better for inspiration or for clarity or for just, harmonizing than actually, nature, right? And so a lot of creative ideas for people come from them being in the forest or sitting on and if you don't have those things, you know what? Do some visualization, put on a meditation, listen to some stream, because it will get you there as well, right? So those other things, kind of taking yourself outside of a situation. And I've had where I just went for a walk and I came home and the whole article just flew out of my fingers, right? And the whole branding concept came out, and I was like, okay, we're good. And I didn't have to stress.
Didn't have to try.
Just enjoy my time.
Yeah.
Allow it.
Yeah. And what an incredible feeling that is, to just have it flow out so effortlessly. Literally the best.
It is. My problem that I'm working through is that because I have this time, I add more. And so I need to stop doing that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But is there ever a shortage of ideas? No. And I don't believe that they are, because when you position yourself, you are summoning the muse, which is a common phrase for artists. You're summoning that place. You're kind of, and dreams are like that. You dream incubate by creating the space for it. So whether that's decluttering, feng shuiing, going for that walk, automatic suggestion, having something that's beautiful, beautiful sense, natural sense, that I like to sleep with, doing something that's really different, but prompting. And the thing is you can just hop on Spotify and grab yourself type in creative binaural beats, and a whole playlist of things will actually come up. Put those on for 5 minutes and go through the process of entrainment, which is training your brain waves. Amazing. And taking yourself there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. It's really no excuses anymore. We have everything at our fingertips.
Yeah, but we have our own. It's like, we have like how many breathwork facilitators, and I love breathwork. I was doing 45 minutes of a breathwork session last night, and it's the thing that, like, that's all we do this, but yet we have to have somebody guide us through breathing exercises
100%.
and think about it, so something that is available to us all the time. And so, there's something to be said. It's because we live in a world of busyness, and a world of busyness and a lot of distortion with all of the frequencies and things like that are out there. It's why a lot of people, when they're out in nature, or they're away at a cottage, they're getting that good night rest, or they might have some nice blissful dreaming, or whatever it might be, or they get those wonderful downloads. It's because they're no longer in the distraction and the distortion of the city, because there's so much here going on all the time. And so it's something that is a practice that we must make space for.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but we have our dreams to tap into, and it's like, yes, we still need support from coaches, guides, and therapists, 100%.
Yeah,
but we also have, like, your dreams are your highest self talking to you. So if you could have a conversation, anybody would say, if I asked them, would you like to have a conversation with your highest self? They would be like, absolutely. Great. Pay attention to your dreams.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your dreams.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I love kind of this work, and like the work that really taps you into your body. It's a lot different than kind of the coaching of the past, where it's more like masculine type, tangible things to work on. Because I remember even when I first got into personal development type stuff, they're like, you have to wake up at 7 a.m. or at like 5 a.m. You have to like do this, you have to do that. And it was so like, it wasn't me accessing the wisdom that I had, which you're never going to get any higher wisdom than what's actually coming through yourself, because it's tailored specifically to you and the life path that you have. So I absolutely love that. And I know we could chat about this stuff.
I know.
Days and days and days. So we're going to wrap this up.
Yes.
And I'm sure if anybody is listening and has any questions or anything about anything that's been talked about so far, you would like us to do another episode to dive further into that, feel free to put that out there, and we can chat with Natasha if she would like to come back, because obviously she is just a wealth of knowledge and just like absolutely incredible in this. But before we go, Natasha, is there anything that you would like to share that's kind of on your mind right now?
Yeah. So I think, it is one of these things where, we're in a time in life where really, we're being called to pay attention, to tune into things more, and to tune into our own hearts and minds. And so we have an amazing tool within us. And so utilizing that and utilizing what we have within us is so important. And so you don't need to remember every single dream. Number one, you can trust that the process of individuation is actually happening no matter what, because it is. It's happening within us, even when we don't think that it's happening. Right. So just really, it's paying attention to the dream. You don't need to remember every single dream. It can be impossible. You can trust that the process of growth and harmonizing is happening regardless. So even if you forget a dream completely, don't worry about it. Don't stress over it. However, if you have that dream that just kind of lingers and hangs out, and it's really, it's left an impression on you, then step into it further, and uncover its meaning. Sometimes just sitting with it is really, really important. When you write down the symbolism that you saw in the dream, you don't need to unpack it right away, because you've written down the symbolism. You can always come back to it and ponder what it might mean to you right now.
Mm.
And at that point, you can always, reach out to me. I am by Natasha DreamSeer at natashadreamseer.com. And I would love to, meet you and work with you. And so you can certainly reach out to me there.
That's incredible. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. And Natasha has lots of other resources as well that you can access to dive deeper into dreams. So I'll put all of your links down in the comments or in the description below for this episode. And I just want to say thank you so much again for coming on here and for just sharing all of your wisdom and for continuing to put yourself out there, because I know that it can be intimidating, and it's also us stepping into our greater kind of mission for this lifetime as well. Yeah. So thank you so much for putting it out there. And I'm very, very excited to continue following all of the stuff that you're leaning into and what you continue to do with helping to bring the dream work to more people so that they can really step more into the life that they're really wanting to live, because we all are so capable with the right tools and resources. So very, very grateful for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you to everybody who is here listening. We appreciate you, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much, Natasha.
Bye.
Bye.